Character.ai is the third most used consumer AI application, and for good reason. Lots of people are using AI for companionship, for virtual girlfriends, virtual boyfriends, virtual partners. It's just a side of AI that we don't normally talk about that much, but it is a very large, growing portion of artificial intelligence. It is literally number 3. Hi, this is Carl. It is Thursday, the 17th of July, and we're doing our daily AI updates. I'm taking questions as well, mainly through TikTok. So send me through your questions and I'll be able to answer in between the news articles I'm covering. So the first one I want to cover is about a recent competitive coding competition. Specifically, it was called, got the name here, lost the name, the AWTF, the At Coders World Tour Finals, was held yesterday, and a human won, but barely, just about. So the top coder in this particular competition was a guy called Psyho, not Psycho, but Psyho. He's a Polish dude, got his profile here, and he managed to beat ChatGPT just about. But I think the interesting thing here is, one, that humans can still beat artificial intelligence in AI, but two, this probably is going to be one of the last few times. We saw this again and again with things like chess and then Go. So initially it was thought a computer would not be able to beat a human being in chess. And then we had the Kasparov Blue competition, and the computer eventually beat the world's best chess player and now can consistently do that. And then in 2016, we had the same thing again with Lee Sedol being beaten by AlphaGo in the game of Go. And even in these high-end competitions, it was at the edge of what was possible. These were competitions that were held to see whether a computer could beat a human. And in both of these competitions with Kasparov and with Lee Sedol, the AI did not win every single match. So Lee Sedol did beat AlphaGo in at least one of the matches. There's a really good documentary film called AlphaGo, which is free on YouTube and made by Google. So it's worth watching about that. So I think we're seeing the same thing here with competitive coding, where it's basically the last human beings standing up against the artificial intelligence models in competitive coding and still winning for now. But even Psyho, this guy who's just 20 hours ago, he's admitting, yeah, I'm exhausted. And an AI doesn't get tired. It will just keep going. So he says, humanity has prevailed for now. I'm completely exhausted. I figured I had 10 hours of sleep in the last 3 days and I'm barely alive. I'll post more about the contest when I get some rest. So he did win, but at what cost? And the top comment here is somebody referencing John Henry. So John Henry, for those of you who aren't sure who that is, it's a blues song based on probably a real person, but we don't know the details, about a guy who used to ride railway spikes. So he used a giant hammer to drive a big metal spike into the ground to hold down railways. And it used to be done by hand by swinging huge sledgehammers. Very inefficient, very hard work, backbreaking, literally backbreak work. And then along came the steam engine pile driver, which would drive along traffic and slam these rails down into the ground. But John Henry is a steel driver who he didn't want to lose to the machine. So he had a final race against the machine. And there's a poem, there's a song about it. In that song, the machines are not as good. It cannot drive these stakes as far down as John Henry can, but it still beats him in the competition because it can keep going. So he gets measured in a race against a steam-powered rock drill, a race that he won only to die in victory with a hammer in his hand when his heart gives out from stress. I think we're seeing a bit of a John Henry story here with Psyho, a guy who is standing up against artificial intelligence, still winning, but at what cost? So he is our modern day John Henry. He's going to die with a hammer in his hand, probably very shortly. The AI tools will be better than our human coders. Blah 9571 is saying, what's the best tool at the moment for creating websites? So it depends what you're doing. If it's just a static website that just has a bit of information on it, then genuinely you can use something like Squarespace, you can use something like Wix, something very basic, no problem at all. If you want it to do stuff, so if you want it to be a web application, though it can take information, process that information and do something with it, then you need to build a web app rather than a website. So it depends on what you want to build here. If it's purely static, then something like Squarespace is fine. It's very easy to use, which is generally why I'd recommend something like that. If you want to go a bit more complex, you could use WordPress, you could use Webflow, but they have more of a learning curve. If you want to build a web application, so a web app, something that does something, then I would use Lovable at the moment. Lovable or, God, what's the other one? Bolt. These are byte coding tools that will allow you to build web apps that allow you to build web pages that are a bit more complicated, but they allow you to do that through byte coding rather than having to actually write the HTML, put together the JavaScript, etc. If you want to go more advanced than that, then you could use something like Cursor. But in your case, it's purely static. Squarespace is great. If it's a web application, then Lovable is probably going to be the best one for you. But there are many tools out there, and lots of people will give other recommendations. Just try a few out. Most of them have free trials as well. So that's the first piece of news is about this FIHO, our new John Henry. The next piece is again Grok and Dex AI. Can't avoid it. We talked about it all week. 2 days ago, Grok secured a $200 million Department of Defense contract. Good work. And on the same day, they dropped their not safe for work anime waifu AI avatar. Executed same day, hilariously. They are now hiring an engineer. I think, let me find it. Let me find the actual job posting because it's pretty funny. Here we go. They're looking for a full stack engineer hyphen waifus. So specifically to build waifus for Grok. So we are creating, let's see. What you'll do is you'll make a real-time avatar produce fast, scalable, and reliable outpush board, audio gameplay research and deploy breakthrough innovations, etc., etc. But you are specifically building AI companions, you're building waifus for people to use. Average salary ranges anywhere between $200,000 and $450,000 to build waifs for people online. There's a lot of money, so you know how to do this, and you want to build AI avatars for Grok. Again, I think it's very clever what they're doing. Character.ai is the third most used consumer AI application, and for good reason. Lots of people are using AI for companionship, for virtual girlfriend, virtual boyfriend, virtual partners. It's just a side of AI that we don't normally talk about that much, but it is a very large, growing portion of artificial intelligence. It is literally number 3. So the top, let me pull it up. The top consumer AI apps are ChatGPT, obviously, at the top. Yeah, put up the rest of them. So ChatGPT, number 1. DeepSeek is number 2 because it has a huge Chinese user base. Makes sense. And then Character AI is number 3, which is a companionship application. Character AI, I believe, is safe for work. It's not pornographic, but it's a huge company now. And then number 5 is Janitor AI, which is also companionship. And number 9 is SpicyChat.ai, which is, I'm sure you can guess what that is. And AI are moving into that part of the market in order to embed AI avatars into our life and to make this more mainstream. But I thought what they're doing is very clever. It's just bizarre that we're getting it at the same time as Grok being put into the Department of Defense as part of a $200 million AI deployment budget. So it's a model that is purportedly very serious, but it also has a sexy anime waifu called, what's her name? Annie. Terrace in the afternoon says, any update on ChatGPT 5? Heard it was getting updated this summer. So it's all speculation at the moment. Yeah, the timeline was meant to be July, so it was meant to be now. So we may still be seeing it drop in the next couple of weeks. I saw a video from Nate B. Jones, who you should follow. Fantastic. Talk about, it's again, speculation. ChatGPT or GPT-5 may already be out there in the wild. Some people have noticed their ChatGPT conversations behaving strangely and in a very good way. So suddenly some people noticed, oh wow, this got a lot better for some reason. And nobody was quite sure why. So what they could be doing, and this is pure speculation, but what they could be doing is shadow testing GPT-5, giving it to some users, allowing them to try it out, and then rolling it out to the rest of the user base. I don't know if that's true. We will have to find out. They have previously released models onto benchmarking sites and And then we found out later that that was actually a public model. I don't think they've ever done this kind of shadow rollout where they give it to some people and not others. I may be wrong there. But I think we find out when we find out. I'm sure they'll announce a conference, and when they do that conference, they'll drop GPT-5 at the same time. That tends to be their modus operandi. I haven't seen anything being announced yet, but I'm sure we will in the next few weeks. Even if we don't get it in summer, I think by the end of the year, we will have it. The question here is, what can you release with GPT-5 that is going to make people excited? Because the models are really good already. They can do a lot of stuff. The text model, fantastic. The audio and visual models are great. Like the ability to hold a camera. Lots of people don't use this or know it. You can hold a camera, show it a video, a live video of what you're doing, and it can give you advice on whatever you're seeing. So it's really good if you want to navigate in a city. I'm in Paris right now. I can whip out ChatGPT and say, hey, this is where I am. Is there any way good to eat around here? And it would be able to work it out using live video. Really cool stuff. So I guess the question is, what can they release with GPT-5 that's going to blow everyone's socks off? Because they need to do that in order to maintain excitement and to maintain momentum. And I don't know what that is, but that's what their engineers are working on. That's what their product team are working on. I think what we'll probably see, and they've been murmuring about this, is bringing it all together into a multimodal model. So there'll be less switching between all of the models. I know a lot of people who use ChatGPT who don't even know there's a drop down which allows you to switch between 4.0, 03, 01, etc., etc. And even when they do find it, most people's reaction is, what is this? What all these numbers? It doesn't mean anything. ChatGPT is so bad at naming their models. It causes confusion. And then there's things like, should I use 01? Should I use 03? Higher number, so I should use that. But what about the 4s? There's 4 and there's 4.5 and 4.0. It's like, it's a mess. The GPT-5 may bring that all together in one unified model, which will choose, it would choose how to approach a task and whether it needs reasoning or whether it needs to create an image. That's probably what we'll see, which will be it's more of a user experience improvement than necessarily a new feature, but we'll see. Again, we'll find out. It's all speculation at this moment. It's fun, but yeah, we tend to be wrong because we don't know. Big Sausage Gaming says, one thing I struggle with AI, how much it gets stuff wrong. Yeah, it does. So there are ways to mitigate this. A lot of the time, hallucinations are caused because of the way we word our prompt. So sometimes we will word it in a way that doesn't give the AI any option. So we'll say, I want you to return 3 quotes about X, Y, Z. And if it can't find them, it's still trying to please us. It's still trying to be agreeable. So it will still give us 3 quotes. It will just make them. So we need to, if we were looking for verified information, like finding a quotation, for example, would provide me with these quotes and the sources so that I can check them out. So that's how we use it. But then there are other hallucinations which are caused by context window length. So basically the memory that these models have. They can only take and work with a certain amount of information. And that information includes the prompt that we give it, any documents that we upload, and the prior chat. So as a chat gets longer and longer, it's more likely that information from the top of the chat, from the beginning, will start to get forgotten. And instead of just telling us this, the models will fill in the gaps. They'll work out what they're missing. And then because they're very good at pattern matching and sentence completion, they'll try and work out that missing information. And that's when things go wrong. Most of the time, it's fine. But if you need veracity, if you need to make sure something is validated, if you're doing anything to do with numbers or anything to do with code, that's when it goes horribly wrong. So you can guard against this by always starting new chats. You can use things like projects. So both ChatGPT and Claude have projects which allow you to save certain information into a project knowledge. And that keeps the current chat clean, and you start multiple chats within the project and they'll all pull on that project knowledge. That's probably the best way to deal with it. Or you can use larger context models like Gemini. So Gemini has a context window of 2 million tokens compared to a couple of 100,000, which is the other models. So there are ways to deal with it. The one thing I would say is context window limitations is it's something we deal with right now. It is not necessarily something we're going to have to deal with later in the year or so. We have to remember we're basically at floppy disk era of AI right now. We're going to look back in 10 years at what we're doing with AI right now, and it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be like we're dialing up on a 56K modem. It's that level of computing, but with artificial intelligence. So it will get better. Yeah, just over time. Do you think Grok 4 is really as good as people are saying? No, it's quite good. It's very good. It's okay. So I've talked about Grok so much this week. It's because it's hard to avoid, but I think Grok is very impressive considering how far they've come in such a short amount of time. XAI did not exist 3 years ago. They founded in March 2023. They put a lot of money into building the Colossus data center. It's got 150,000 H100 GPUs. Like, they spent a lot of money and they brute forced training a new model. So they're playing catch up with OpenAI. They need to catch up and pass OpenAI. They have not done so yet. I know that they've done really well in the benchmarks, the official benchmarks. It looks like they overfitted. So they gave too much, or when they trained their models, they trained them specifically to pass the test that will say this is a good model. Which is fine, and it looks good in the press releases, but as soon as you get your model into the hands of everyday people and they start using it, that's all that matters, because they're going to realize that, oh, wait, it's not very good at coding, or it doesn't write things as well as Claude does, or whatever it is. So if you look at yup.ai, I wrote about this yesterday in my newsletter, actually. So yup, I always get this wrong. YUPK.ai. Yes, yup. Yup.ai have leadership tables of the best AIs, ranked by the people who are using Yup to compare models. So you can compare models. And Grok, last time I checked, was about 10. So at the top was Opus, plus 4 by Anthropic, then it was Sonnet, then it was Gemini, and then some ChatGPT models, etc., the normal suspects, usual suspects. And then Grok was about 10, which is not as good as what they're saying, because they're saying it's the best model in the world. But it is impressive considering how far they've come in such a short amount of time, and they're pushing hard. But no, I think the question's interesting here. You say, do you think Grok is as good as people are saying? Some people are saying it's the best thing in the world. Some people are saying it's terrible. I think the truth is somewhere in between. It's okay. It's pretty good. It's just not as good as Claude. So there's no reason to jump over from Claude or ChatGPT to Grok, but it's pretty good considering. And if you already paid for X Premium, X Pro, whatever it's called, you have access as well. So useful. Where are you seeing opportunities with good moats to build an AI? So I think, so this question is referencing when you start a company, you generally want to have a moat. This is something that protects your business and allows you to sustain it without competitors being able to come in and eat your lunch, basically. I think the moats have disappeared when it comes to building, because anyone now can build a prototype very quickly using vibe coding and potentially use that to a catch, or use it as proof of concept, get an engineering team on board, and then go from there. So I think the moat for building is drying up and it's almost gone. I think the moat now comes from distribution. So Greg Eisenberg talks about this a lot on Twitter and LinkedIn. The world is flipping. And so it used to be about, it's only the people who can build, technically, who will be able to grow companies. So it's always, if you went to an entrepreneurship event or a network event, everyone was looking for a technical co-founder. That's not going to be the case anymore, because we can now put together minimum viability products very quickly using coding tools. And these tools are going to get better and better and better. So the moat is no longer building. It's no longer having the best engineers. It's no longer having the best products necessarily. Instead, it's going to be about distribution. It's about being able to get attention. Because if you go to one of the AI tool directories, there's lots of them out there. They're great. Most of the tools in there, a couple of users that have one review and they've been abandoned, because it's so easy and fast to throw up a project in a week, a weekend, if you're fast, get it out the door. But because it's so easy, so many people are doing it, which means there's a lot of competition. And these people haven't necessarily thought about distribution and how you get it into the hands of people. So I think the moat now is audience. The moat is having a group of people who you know are going to be your customers, And it's all about distribution and being able to get your product out to people. That's what really matters right now. There's a guy called Yoni. Yoni will do it. YoniMan.mp4 on Instagram, and I'm sure he's on TikTok, etc. He's done a really great job here. He's got 175,000 followers on, put it up on my screen, 175,000 followers. See that? There we go. On Instagram. And he's just a really good example of somebody who has thought about distribution first. So he has done a series of videos. He's on day 412. So he's done a video every single day, documenting his journey to build something. And he didn't actually build anything until build and release something until relatively recently. He has an application called Brainrot, which is doing really well because she nailed distribution first and then worried about what exactly it was that he was going to be building. So I think this is the moat nowadays. The moat is not building. The moat is distribution. So someone like Yoni is a great example of a person who nailed that. He used build in public as a way to do that, so that when what he had built was ready, he could release it into the world, and he knew he'd have that initial momentum to get it vending, get it to top of Product Hunt, to get it moving on the App Store, etc., so that it can then go wider. If you don't build that beforehand, then when you release, it's going to be crickets. Just because you built something amazing doesn't matter if nobody knows about it. It's not a field of dreams, build it and they will come. So I'd have a look at that if you are looking to build a moat. So it's not about building, it's not about engineering, it's about distribution nowadays. Yeah. Amel is saying the same thing. Marketing and branding is a superpower. So it's marketing and branding now, which is becoming more and more important because it's becoming easier and the barriers to entry to building are decreasing, which means there's an oversupply. It means you need different ways to differentiate, and it's not about product quality. Oki said, what's his name? So it's YoniMan.mp4. His name's Yoni, or Yoni, I think he is technically. Down the waifus, Justin John Henry. Another piece of news comes from Meta. So as Meta has been on a spending spree, they've been grabbing top engineers for their super intelligence lab. They've been stealing them from OpenAI. They stole a guy from Apple, which seemed a bit mean because Apple is so far behind already on artificial intelligence. So Zuckerberg has just been buying and acquiring as many people as he can. They're also about to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on a data center. So here we go. Let me find. So they are building data centers. So this is what Grok did last year with their Colossus data center. They just built this huge data center, filled it with GPUs, and used that to brute force training their model. Looks like Meta are going down a similar route. This costs a lot of money, a huge amount of money, both in the construction, in buying the GPUs from NVIDIA. So this is great for NVIDIA, and then in the electricity cost. So much electricity that some companies are talking about either buying or building nuclear power stations just to power their data centers. This is a game that cannot be played by small companies. So increasingly we're seeing the race being condensed into the hands of the billionaires. So we've got Zuckerberg, we've got Musk, we've got Sam Altman, and then we have Google and Microsoft. And no one else can compete. So I'm in Paris right now in France. They have Mistral, their AI company here. But anyone who's not on the same level as these gigantic companies are not going to be able to afford the infrastructure investments, not going to be able to afford buying in engineers and giving them $100 million signing bonuses. So increasingly, this is getting condensed. So they're building a couple of multi-gigawatt data centers. The first one is called Prometheus. The walls of these things. We've got Colossus from Grok, Elon Musk. We've got Prometheus, who famously is the human who stole fire from the god. There's some egos here. It's expected to come online in 2026, while another called Hyperion, I believe Hyperion is Helios's sibling. They're a Titan who represents his son, I think. Anyway, again, big, grandiose names. We'll be able to scale up to 5 gigawatts in the coming years. We're building multiple more Titan clusters as well. Just one of these clusters covers a significant part of the footprint of Manhattan. So that gives you an idea of the size of these data centers. It's the size of Manhattan, which is what? 20, 30 miles tall. Check it out. I've actually gone up to the side of Manhattan once. I did my first 20-mile run there. It's exhausting. So it's 22 square miles or 60 square kilometers. Yeah, that's a lot of data center being built. The Meta will be the first AI lab to bring a gigawatt but online. It's going to be larger than anything else that's been built. We have the capital from our business to do this. Yeah, so they generated $165 billion in revenue last year. And now it looks like they are pivoting their business model into artificial intelligence. So they have a huge advantage in that they have data. Unlike the other companies, they have huge data pools from their social media sites. So they arguably, I don't know how many photos they have, but they probably are sitting on one of the largest repositories of photos on Earth, is Instagram, and also one of the largest repositories of human communication via Facebook. So people posting, talking, Messenger, and WhatsApp. Potentially all of that information could be used to train models, which is data that other AI companies do not have access to. So this is in part why OpenAI, they're going to be launching a browser. Again, they want access to more human-generated information because we're running out. We've already put the whole of the internet into these models, and that means we're hitting a wall. That, which I always find fascinating, because people are like, oh, that means these AI models are clutch because, it's starting to trail off. The reason for that is that in the last couple of thousand years, we as a species have not generated enough information. We've fed everything we can to these AI models already, and the AI models are like, yum, yum, give me more. And we haven't written anymore. We haven't created anymore. So it's not failing as a civilization that we just haven't made any more information to feed into these models. So the models are really good and they can process a lot more, but we don't have enough to feed it. And that's why these companies are always looking for new ways to get access to information. For Meta, it's going to be our WhatsApp messages. It's going to be our Messenger messages. It's going to be everything that we post on Facebook. It's going to be communication. They're going to have to work through the privacy stuff, but this is why they've added things like AI directly into WhatsApp. They're making sure that we are comfortable with sharing information with an AI over time so that they can use it to train these new models and run everything through these superclusters. Because everything that we write, say, and do is information and data for these models. So yeah, Zuck is definitely, we're going to have a Skynet. I think Zuckerberg is going to be the father of it. Cool. For the two questions, I don't want to be too much of a bummer, but yeah, we do need to be careful about allowing a very small number of very large corporations and genuinely individuals, like individual people, like Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, etc. Allowing individuals to run this technology is problematic. It is not ideal. But at the same time, this has now been taken out of the hands of normal people because we cannot build superclusters ourselves. I don't know what the solution is, but we need to be very wary moving forward. It says, I think moats would be having your own deep proprietary data and solving problems with complex workflows. Yes, exactly. So previously the question was, what kind of moat can you build around an AI business, an AI startup, an AI tool to keep competition out? And having deep data is really valuable. And that's exactly the playbook that someone like Mark Zuckerberg is using with their own AI models. Their moat comes from that data that they've been building for the last decade through Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, having data no one else has access to makes for a very valuable resource when you are building artificial intelligence models or you're building tools that use that information. It's also one of the limitations of going into businesses and doing any form of consultation or advisory is that businesses need to have this data. They need significant amounts of data if they want to build their own AI tools, if they want to build their own large language models. It requires having huge amounts of information. And that information needs to be well sorted. It can't just be a bunch of Excel files on people's desktops, etc. It needs to be in a central repository so we can use that to train models. And that's often where a lot of businesses fall down, and therefore we can't deploy good AI products then because the data they've given us is. So that's also a good opportunity to go into businesses and help them sort out their data. This is the data scientist's job, really, in order to prepare them for AI. Scrolling, sorry. Cool. One thing that I wanted to flag up is very useful. People on these lives keep asking, how do I get started with AI? What should I be reading and doing? So I wanted to show you this very useful article. So it's from a guy called Ethan Mollick. A bit larger. There we go. So Ethan Mollick I can see he's an academic, but he's a very practical academic. We won't hold it against him. But he's very active on Twitter and LinkedIn. He's written a book called Co-Intelligence, which I highly recommend. Very few good books on AI because it moves so quickly. But Co-Intelligence is fantastic. I highly recommend reading it. But he's put together a guide and he updates it every few months called Using AI Right Now, a Quick Guide. And it is basically, if you are starting right now and you want to start using AI and you have no idea what to do, then this guide is very useful. So it starts with what AI should you be using. So it's basically Claude, Gemini, or ChatGPT. He talks about the differences between them, what you'd want to use one for against the others. And then once you've chosen which AI you're going to use, which model should you be using within the AI? So in ChatGPT, you've got 4.0, O3, O3 Pro, etc. In Claude, you've got Sonnet, Opus, etc., etc. And it shows you how to find those models, how to choose those models. And then he talks about deep research, and then I think voice mode, and then prompting. And so he does a quick summary of where we are, and if you haven't been paying attention for the last couple of years, how you catch up very quickly. And also, here we go, hallucination, two-way conversation, checking for error, etc., etc. So it's a very useful guide. It's available at one useful thing, which is his blog. If you Google Ethan Mollick, Mollick, and using AI right now, it should pop up. It's forgetting. Okay, so that is the main news I wanted to cover today. I'm going to finish up. It's a relatively short live today, but I'm on holiday and I'm going to go and explore Paris today. If you find these lives useful, then every single day we cut the live up into individual videos. Those videos are published on YouTube, so you can find the exact topics that you're interested in. We also create short videos, clips, etc. which go to TikTok, Instagram. I'm on all the channels. TikTok is my main channel. And there is a free newsletter which comes out every day. I'm a bit late on today, so I will get it done now before I go sightseeing, which gives a summary of what's been covered the day before, as well as the individual videos or time codes to help you just watch the segments that you're interested in. So that's free, and that is available in the link in my bio, so you can sign up for the newsletter. There's also a second newsletter, which is about how to build businesses using AI, where every single week I deep dive a particular topic and give you a 5-part playbook showing you how to practically and actionably use artificial intelligence to build and grow businesses. Again, that's free, and that's going to be in the link in my bio. So I'm going to hop off and I'm going to go and be a tourist for the rest of the day. Thank you so much, everybody, and see you tomorrow.